I have talked before about price predictions for VeTHOR, but because of popular demand I wanted to make this video to share my thoughts and my analysis on the subject of a VeTHOR valuation. The first thing which I think that investors should know is that VeTHOR is very different to many other cryptos in one important respect. VeTHOR has a continually changing supply which isn't guaranteed to either go up or down, as VeTHOR is produced via VET staking dividend, but it's also being consumed and used up out of the circulating supply by companies and other organizations who are using VeTHOR to pay for and use VeChain services. And so because the circulating supply is always changing based upon the ratio of supply to demand, it makes valuing VeTHOR that much harder than valuing a crypto like for example VET, which has a fixed maximum supply and isn't being destroyed or used up. Now what makes it still even harder is that the demand for VeTHOR has two components. The first is genuine demand from people who are in the market for VeTHOR purchasing it to use, and the second is demand which is derived from investors purchasing VeTHOR as an investment, and it's effectively impossible to tell exactly what percentage is attributable to each component. Because when an organization is buying VeTHOR, we don't know whether it's as an investment, or whether they're stocking up to avoid having to pay more if they anticipate a price rise in VeTHOR. And when individuals are buying VeTHOR, again we can't be sure whether they are buying it as an investment, or whether they are planning to use it in their businesses in the future. Right now the annual total dividend value of VeTHOR is around $216 million, although that figure will fluctuate depending upon the market price of VeTHOR on any given day. And exactly how much of that demand comes from investors and how much is genuine use, I don't know. I've tried to figure this out before and the data simply isn't available, as we're talking about hundreds of companies and tens of thousands of private individuals all over the world, and there is no official data on the subject, and the best that we can do is use our intuition and look at the situation. And by the way, if you're enjoying this video so far, I want to ask you to do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, because it really helps me and it will allow me to spend more time doing research and producing videos like this. Anyway, my guess is that the recent price rises in VeTHOR are down to a mixture of both an increase in genuine demand and investment demand. Pretty much everybody knows that we are in a crypto bull run right now, as prices are booming and there are a lot of new investors and new investment capital coming into the space, which is creating a lot of demand for fast-growing crypto platforms and currencies like VeTHOR as investments. But then, on the other hand, the supply chain analytics industry is also booming. Given the recent global COVID-19 pandemic, the demand for online shopping and e-commerce has gone through the roof, and not just at the retail level but at every step of the supply chain. More and more people and more businesses are using delivery instead of collection, and so there has been a massive uptick in the logistics and transportation and supply chain businesses, which means that it's not unreasonable to assume that VeChain, being a supply chain analytics company, who supply data to businesses who operate in logistics and transportation, have also seen a large increase in demand, which I think is one of the things fueling the demand for VeTHOR. You see, VeChain haven't changed the amount of VeTHOR being produced in unit terms by the VET dividend, but the demand for VeChain services, which is effectively demand for VeTHOR, and the demand for VeTHOR as an investment as well, has been rising at a very high rate over the last year, which means that the ratio of supply to demand has changed and driven up the price. Now the smart investor always keeps one eye on the past and the other on the future. We know why the price of VeTHOR has been rising, but if we want to know whether it will likely continue to rise, we have to look at whether the current conditions which are causing the price of VeTHOR to rise are likely to remain in place into the future or even intensify, or whether they are likely to be diminished and cause the price rises to slow down or even reverse. And by the way, as many of you will already know, there are no guarantees in crypto and nobody can predict with 100% accuracy what will happen tomorrow, and so I just want to be completely clear that my analysis is just one person's view on the subject and I could be wrong. Anyway, like I said before, the current conditions which exist right now and are causing the price of VeTHOR to boom are that the unit volume of VeTHOR being produced by the staking dividend has remained the same. In other words, the supply hasn't changed, but actually the demand for VeTHOR, both from a genuine usage and investment perspective, have increased a lot over the last year. And so if these conditions persist, then it's likely that the value of VeTHOR will continue to rise, and the extent to which the price will rise depends upon how much the genuine usage of VeChain increases and how much investment demand for VeTHOR increases as well. And I'm a long-term investor and I always try to look at the 2-year, 3-year or even the 5-year picture, and not what things will look like in a month's time. And that's because short-term price predictions are too reliant upon the news of the day, which nobody knows ahead of time. Whereas long-term value depends much more upon performance in terms of adoption and platform growth, which is far more predictable and far more reliable. As for the level of genuine demand for VeTHOR, over the next few years I myself think that we are likely to see a growth of 10 to 1, maybe 20 to 1, based upon how quickly the whole industry and how quickly VeChain are growing and landing partners, And as far as investment demand is concerned, the truth is, it's way too unpredictable to try and figure out, as mainstream opinion changes a lot, and it changes very quickly as well, swinging between a pendulum of optimism and pessimism. And so the best guess that I can make is that as more people get into crypto every market cycle, the level of demand will grow as VeChain and VeTHOR discovery grows as well. And so based upon these figures, I think that growth, in line with the predicted growth in genuine use, will yield gains of 10 to 1, perhaps 20 to 1 in the value of VeTHOR over the next few years. But having said that, this analysis doesn't consider what will happen if VeChain decide to increase the supply of VeTHOR. And if they increase the supply, obviously the price won't rise as quickly. And if they wanted to, VeChain could increase the supply so much that even if demand grows as fast as I think it will, they could make it so that the supply increases still faster, meaning that the price will actually fall. And so while I think that the price of VeTHOR will likely increase by 10, maybe 20 to 1 over the next couple of years, if VeChain wanted to, they could diminish a part or even all of that gain by increasing the supply, and increasing it enough so that it counterbalances a growth in demand, which they may want to do if they desire a stable market price for VeTHOR. And again, I don't know whether VeChain plan to do this or not, but it's definitely something to consider if you're looking at this crypto. Anyway, that's all for now, but if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more content like this, all you have to do is subscribe to gain access to that. Thanks for watching.